has decided his England career is over. Ray Kennedy says in tomorrow's Sunday Mirror, "I never want to play for England again. I've been mucked about too often. I'm tired of being called up for international squads and being left out of final team selection."
He's a beast. That is what many football legends said about Ray Kennedy. But what did they really mean? For decades, people heard that Ray Kennedy was violent on the pitch. They thought he played dirty. They thought he hurt people. But the men who played alongside him, the managers who picked him, and the opponents who faced him told a very different story. They said Ray Kennedy was not a villain. He was a force of nature. His power was so great that it scared defenders. His strength was so real that it changed how teams played the game. So what exactly made Ray Kennedy so violent? And what did the toughest men in football have to say about it? This is his story, told through the voices of those who knew him best and faced him on the pitch. Ray Kennedy's journey takes us through some of the greatest football teams England has ever produced. It shows us what it takes to be truly dominant. It shows us how physical power, when combined with skill and intelligence, can create something special. Ray Kennedy was special. He was different. He stood out. And the legends of football knew it. Understanding Ray Kennedy means understanding football itself during a golden era. It means understanding strength. It means understanding what it took to be great. It means recognizing that true dominance comes not from brutality, but from excellence in every aspect of the game. Bill Shankly was the manager of Liverpool. He was one of the greatest football minds of all time. In 1974, Shankly made Ray Kennedy one of his final signings for the club. This was Shankly's last act as Liverpool manager. His final gift to the club was Ray Kennedy. Shankly had seen something special in Ray. He knew that this young player had gifts that few others possessed. When Shankly spoke about Ray, he did not use small words. He said that Ray was big, brave, and strong. These were not empty compliments. Shankly meant every word. Every single word was chosen with purpose. He compared Ray Kennedy to a boxing champion named Rocky Marciano. This was a huge thing to say. Rocky Marciano was one of the greatest heavyweight boxers who ever lived. Marciano never lost a fight. He was unbeatable. He was powerful. He was unstoppable. He was a legend of boxing. To be compared to Marciano was to be elevated to the highest level. Shankly believed that Ray Kennedy had these same qualities on the football pitch. Shankly certainly packed a punch, he said. This meant Ray had real impact. He had real power. He had real presence on the pitch. When Ray stepped onto the field, things changed. Defenders trembled. They knew what was coming. Shankly's vision for Ray Kennedy was bold and ambitious. He did not simply want another striker. He wanted a player who could change the entire complexion of Liverpool's attack. He wanted someone who could bully defenders in the best possible way. He wanted a player whose very presence on the pitch would affect how opposing teams set up their defence. Shankly knew that Ray Kennedy had the physical tools to do this. Shankly knew that Ray had the mental strength to withstand the brutality of top-level football. Shankly knew that Ray would never back down from a challenge. This was exactly what Liverpool needed. This was exactly what Shankly believed would take Liverpool to the next level. Shankly thought Ray would be like a heavyweight fighter among defenders. He believed Ray would use his body to bully opposing teams in the best sense. Shankly said that Ray would cause defenders plenty of trouble. He would fight for every ball. He would challenge them. He would make them uncomfortable. Shankly did not mean that Ray would play dirty. Shankly was a man of principle. He would not have signed a player he believed played unfairly. He meant that Ray would use his size and strength to win battles. He would dominate the physical side of the game, and that is exactly what happened. Ray Kennedy arrived at Liverpool and gave the team something they had never had before. He gave them unprecedented strength up front. He was a new weapon. Defenders did not know how to handle him. His presence changed everything. The very nature of how Liverpool could attack changed with Ray in the squad. Teams had to prepare differently when facing Liverpool with Ray Kennedy on the pitch. They had to think about how to cope with his power. Defensive strategies had to change. Defenders could not rely on speed alone. They could not rely on technical skill alone. They had to have physical presence. They had to have courage. They had to be willing to engage with Ray in physical battles. Most defenders were not prepared for this challenge. Most defenders had never faced anyone quite like Ray Kennedy before. His impact was immediate and profound. Liverpool felt stronger. Liverpool felt more confident. The entire club understood that Ray Kennedy had made them better. Bob Paisley took over as manager of Liverpool after Shankly left. Paisley was a brilliant football mind in his own right. He understood the game deeply. He saw potential in players that others missed. He was tactically aware. He could see how a player might fit into different systems and different roles. Bob Paisley looked at Ray Kennedy and saw something that Shankly had also seen, but Paisley saw something more. He saw that Ray could play in midfield. Ray had always been a striker. He was a big forward who attacked. But Paisley believed Ray could do so much more. He believed Ray had the skills and the intelligence to play a different role. He believed Ray had the work rate and the physical presence to dominate midfield. He made a bold decision. He moved Ray Kennedy from striker to midfielder. This was a change that would define the second part of Ray's career. This was a change that would prove to be visionary. This was a change that would demonstrate Paisley's genius as a tactical manager. Many people doubted this move. Many people thought Ray would struggle in midfield. Many people believed that moving Ray away from the attack was a mistake. But Paisley believed in his vision. Paisley trusted his instincts, and Paisley was proved absolutely right. This move was genius. In midfield, Ray Kennedy flourished. Paisley called him a midfield powerhouse. Ray's stamina was incredible. He could run all day without tiring. He never seemed to get tired. He was always available for a pass. He was always ready to make a run. He was always willing to work. His balance was excellent. He stayed on his feet when other players would fall. When challenged, he would ride the challenge. When tackled, he would stay upright. His strength was immense. He used it to shield the ball from defenders. He used it to win 50-50 challenges. He used it to protect the ball while his teammates made runs. He used it to create space for attacking players. He used his strength intelligently. He used it legally. He used it within the rules of the game. Paisley said that Ray's contribution to Liverpool was so great that when Ray missed a match, the whole team felt it deeply. The gap was massive. The team played differently without him. Other midfielders could not replace what Ray did. His presence was that important. Paisley missed Ray. The players missed Ray. The fans missed Ray. Everyone understood what Ray meant to the team. Everyone understood that without Ray, Liverpool was a different team. Less strong, less dominant, less sure of themselves. Ray Kennedy's presence gave the entire team confidence. Paisley went further with his praise. He called Ray Kennedy one of Liverpool's greatest players. He said Ray was probably the most underrated player of that entire era. This was remarkable praise coming from such a legendary manager. Liverpool had so many great players during that time. The club won trophies. It dominated English football. It was a dynasty. But Paisley put Ray Kennedy among the very best. He recognised Ray's skill. He saw how Ray used his physical strength with intelligence. Ray was not just strong. He was strong and skillful at the same time. He could shield the ball perfectly. He could pass accurately. He could move the play forward. He could control the tempo of the game. His strength was a tool. It was not a weapon for hurting people. It was a tool for winning football matches. It was a tool for helping his teammates. It was a tool that Paisley understood and appreciated fully. Graham Souness was a midfielder who played for Liverpool. Souness was famous for being tough. He was one of the hardest players in English football. He did not shy away from physical battles. He was fierce. He was competitive. He was someone who other players feared. Souness respected very few players in the way he respected toughness. But Ray Kennedy was one of those special few. Souness recognised something in Ray that he valued deeply. Ray never ran from a challenge. Ray would meet any opponent head-on. Ray would stand his ground. Ray would fight for the ball just as hard as any player Souness had ever seen. Souness had respect for Ray. This was not given easily. Souness had to earn that respect from everyone around him, and he gave it out sparingly. A famous story shows just how tough Ray was. During training, a hard man named Tommy Smith hit Ray Kennedy with a brutal tackle. Tommy Smith was one of the toughest players in Liverpool history. He was known for his strength and his willingness to challenge anyone. He was a warrior. He was uncompromising. This tackle was meant as a test. Smith wanted to see how Ray would react. Smith wanted to see if Ray would back down. Smith wanted to see if Ray would come back for more. Smith wanted to test Ray's courage and his character. Ray did not back down. Ray did not complain. Ray got up and stood his ground. A brawl broke out between them. Both men fought, but Ray did not lose. Ray showed that he could give as much as he got. He could dish it out. He could take it. Souness saw this moment. He saw Ray's courage. He saw Ray's willingness to fight. He saw Ray's refusal to accept disrespect. This earned Souness's deep respect. Here was a player who would not be pushed around. Here was a player with true grit. Here was a player who rode every challenge and stood his ground against even the fiercest competition. The Tommy Smith incident became legendary at Liverpool. Everyone knew about it. Everyone respected Ray more because of it. Charlie George was an Arsenal legend. He played alongside Ray Kennedy during the early part of Kennedy's career. Charlie George was a top striker. He was skillful. He was talented. He could score goals. He could dribble past defenders. But what amazed Charlie about Ray Kennedy was his physical power. Charlie would often joke about it. He said defenders simply bounced off Ray Kennedy. They would try to tackle him. They would throw their bodies at him. But Ray would stay on his feet. His power was so great that defenders could not move him. Charlie said Ray was strong as an ox. This is an old saying that means someone is incredibly strong. An ox is a powerful animal. It is difficult to move an ox when it does not want to be moved. It is nearly impossible. An ox will stand there and you cannot budge it. That was Ray Kennedy in Charlie George's eyes. Charlie played with many good players, but Ray was different. Ray was exceptional. Ray Kennedy was 5 feet and 11 inches tall. This is quite tall. His frame was broad. He was not just tall, he was also wide and muscular. He used his whole body to shield the ball from defenders. When Ray had possession, nobody could take it from him. His balance was remarkable. He would absorb challenges. He would ride tackles. He would stay upright. When another player would have fallen, Ray stayed on his feet. Even veteran defenders found it hard to dispossess him. They would try. They would fail. Ray would keep moving forward. Ray would keep creating chances for his teammates. His ability to keep the ball was extraordinary. It was almost supernatural. It was like watching a player who could not be knocked over. Arsenal had a special season in 1971. The team won the double. This means they won the League Championship and the FA Cup in the same season. No English team had done this in 40 years. It was an incredible achievement. It was historic. It was the kind of season that players dream about. Arsenal's players would be remembered forever. Ray Kennedy played a big part in this success. He was just 19 years old. Most players at that age are still learning. Most players at 19 have not yet reached their peak. Most players at 19 are struggling just to get games. But Ray Kennedy was different. He was already dominating opponents. His physical presence was frightening to defending teams. He combined this strength with skill. He combined it with the ability to finish chances. He was a nightmare for defending teams. That is what Charlie George and his other Arsenal teammates witnessed every single week. They saw greatness developing before their eyes. They knew they were playing with someone special. They understood that Ray Kennedy would go on to have a tremendous career. The double-winning year of 1971 showed the world what Ray Kennedy was capable of. It showed his potential. It proved that he could perform at the highest level. It proved that he could handle elite defenders. Frank McLintock was the captain of Arsenal during Ray Kennedy's early years there. A captain is the leader of the team. The captain must be someone who other players respect. McLintock was a tough defender. He had played at the highest level. He had seen many players come and go. He had played in great teams. So when McLintock spoke about Ray Kennedy, people listened. He had the authority to make judgments about players. McLintock used a simple word to describe Ray. He called him a beast. In football, this is a compliment. It means someone is powerful and dominant. It means someone has great physical presence. McLintock said it was frightening how strong Ray was. It was frightening how hard to budge him. This was especially remarkable because Ray was just a teenager. He was 19 years old. Most teenagers struggle at the highest level of football. Their bodies are still growing. Their minds are still developing. But Ray Kennedy was different. Ray was physically mature beyond his years. He was almost unshakable. He was a man among boys. He was a player among ordinary athletes. Sometimes young players struggle with their fitness. They gain weight. They lose form. Early in his career, Ray Kennedy struggled with his weight. He did not always perform at peak fitness. He had fitness issues, but even when he was not at his best, he was still a handful for defenders. He could still outmuscle seasoned defenders. These were players with years of experience. These were players who had played at the top of English football for many years. These were players who knew how to defend, but Ray Kennedy could move them out of the way. He could bully them, not in a dirty way, not by hurting them, but by using his size and strength to dominate physical contests. His raw power was so great that even without peak fitness, he was still better than most. Frank McClintock called Ray Kennedy an unsung hero. This means that Ray did not get enough credit for what he did. Many people overlooked his contribution, but McClintock recognised it. He saw that Ray's natural strength and his ability to hold up the ball allowed other players to shine. When Ray had the ball, defenders had to deal with him. This gave space to other attacking players. Other strikers could make runs. They could find space. They could score goals. Ray made this possible with his hold-up play. His strength was not selfish. It was a gift to his teammates. It made the whole team better. It made Arsenal better. John Toshak was a striker at Liverpool. He played alongside Ray Kennedy. Toshak was able to see up close just how unshakable Ray was. Toshak marvelled at how Ray used his body as a shield. When Ray Kennedy had the ball at his feet, defenders faced an impossible task. They could not push him off the ball. They could try. They would fail. Ray had a low centre of gravity. This means his weight was low to the ground. This gave him stability. Defenders could not knock him over easily. Ray also had immense core strength. His stomach muscles and back muscles were extremely strong. This helped him stay on his feet through contact. Every muscle in Ray's body seemed to be working together to keep him upright. Toshak noticed that Ray absorbed contact and kept going. When a defender tackled him, Ray would absorb the impact. He would feel the collision. But he would not fall. He would not lose the ball. He would bounce back and keep moving forward. This resilience was something that Toshak greatly admired. Most players, when hit hard, would go down. They would lose the ball. The opposition would get possession. But Ray Kennedy was different. He was like a player who could not be hurt. He could not be intimidated. He was physically unbreakable. He was like a force of nature. He was relentless. Toshak often watched Ray in training and in matches. He saw Ray handle rough play. He saw Ray get tackled. He saw Ray clashed with Tommy Smith. During this famous training ground battle, Ray showed that he could give as good as he got. He showed that he was not someone to be pushed around. He showed that he had courage beyond his physical strength. Toshak recognised that Ray's combination of strength and determination made him a perfect partner. Toshak loved playing alongside Ray. He knew that when Ray had the ball, he would keep it. He would create space. He would set up chances. No defender wanted to face Ray Kennedy. This was a fact that Toshak understood deeply. Toshak was grateful to play with someone so strong. Ray's strength and toughness went beyond just football ability. His body was a weapon, but it was not a weapon for hurting people. It was a weapon for winning football matches. When Ray Kennedy stepped onto the pitch, defenders knew they were in for a battle. They knew they would have to work hard to move him. They knew they would have to tackle him from behind or with numbers. One-on-one, Ray Kennedy almost always won. His balance was too good. His core strength was too great. His determination was too strong. Defenders dreaded facing him. The story of Tommy Smith and Ray Kennedy became legendary. Tommy Smith was tough. He was hard. He was uncompromising. He was a warrior. In training one day, Smith gave Ray a brutal tackle. This was not a fair challenge. This was a real test of character. Smith wanted to see how Ray would react. Smith wanted to see if Ray would back down. Smith wanted to see if Ray would come back for more. Smith wanted to test Ray's courage, and Ray passed that test with flying colours. Ray got back up. Ray stood his ground. A brawl broke out. Both men showed their true selves. Both men refused to back down. Both men emerged with their reputations intact. In fact, their respect for each other grew. That is the football culture of that era. Toughness was respected. Courage was admired. Standing your ground was important. Ray Kennedy did all of these things perfectly. Ray Kennedy played during an era when football was more physical. Defenders could tackle harder. There were fewer rules protecting attacking players. Players faced tougher challenges. Ray Kennedy thrived. He was not just suited to the era. He dominated it. Players who were tough found life difficult against Ray. Players who were weak found it nearly impossible. His size, strength, balance, and determination made him almost unbeatable. What is remarkable is that all these legends use the same kind of language to describe Ray Kennedy. Shankly called him a heavyweight. Paisley called him a powerhouse. McClintock called him a beast. Toshack said he was unshakable. Saunis said he rode every challenge. These were not accidental descriptions. These were deliberate choices of words. All these men recognized something similar about Ray Kennedy. He had a physical dominance that was almost frightening. He had a presence on the pitch that changed the way games were played. He had an impact that was felt by everyone around him. Yet none of these legends ever said Ray Kennedy was dirty. None of them said he played unfairly. None of them said he broke the rules. They said he was tough. They said he was strong. They said he was difficult to play against. But they did not question his character or his integrity. This is important. Ray Kennedy was not violent in a malicious sense. He was not trying to hurt people. He was simply using his gifts. He had been given great physical strength. He had been given excellent balance. He had been given mental toughness. He had been given intelligence and skill. He used these gifts to be the best player he could be. He used these gifts to help his teams win matches. He used these gifts in a way that was fair and honourable. The physical qualities that made Ray Kennedy dominant were many. His height gave him reach. His broad frame gave him presence. His muscle gave him power. But it was not just raw size. It was how he used that size. It was the technical skill he combined with his physical presence. It was the football intelligence he brought to the pitch. It was his understanding of the game. It was his awareness of what was happening around him. It was his ability to make the right pass at the right time. It was his ability to read the play. It was his ability to anticipate what was going to happen next. All of these things combined made Ray Kennedy not just strong, but great. Not just physical, but skilled. Not just dominant, but intelligent. This is what separated Ray Kennedy from other strong players. This is what made him a legend. The violence that legends spoke about was the violence of dominance. It was the violence of power expressed through football. It was the violence of a man using every tool at his disposal to achieve his aims. It was the violence of relentless, imposing football. Ray Kennedy imposed himself on matches. He imposed himself on defenders. He made them uncomfortable. He made them work harder. He made them think about how to cope with his power. This is what people meant when they called Ray Kennedy violent. They meant that he was dominant. They meant that he was difficult to oppose. They meant that he won physical battles through legitimate football skill and physical strength. They meant that he was excellent. The impact of Ray Kennedy on English football cannot be overstated. He played for Arsenal during their double-winning season. He played for Liverpool during their period of dominance. These were great teams, filled with talented players, but Ray Kennedy was special. He was part of what made these teams great. His strength, his balance, his determination, his courage. These qualities made him valuable to every team he played for. Teams that had Ray Kennedy were stronger. Teams without him missed his presence deeply. When football people talk about Ray Kennedy's violence, they are using a shorthand. They are trying to capture something difficult to express. How do you describe a player who overpowers everyone? How do you describe someone immune to being knocked over? How do you describe a player whose presence changes how teams must play? You use strong language. You say he is violent. You say he is a beast. You say he is a heavyweight. You say he is unshakable. These words capture what made Ray Kennedy special. Ray Kennedy's legacy is about so much more than just physical strength. Yes, he was incredibly strong. Yes, he was difficult to push around. Yes, he dominated physical contests. But he was also skilled. He could pass. He could shield the ball intelligently. He could create space for teammates. He could contribute to all phases of play. His strength was not a replacement for skill. His strength was a complement to his skill. Together, these qualities made him one of the great players of his era. The legends who played with Ray Kennedy, or against him, understood this. They respected him, not just for his physical power, but for the complete player he was. They respected his courage. They respected his determination. They respected his ability to use his physical gifts wisely and fairly. They respected his willingness to work hard and contribute to his team's success. These are the qualities that make a great player. These are the qualities that make a player a legend. If Ray Kennedy had been purely violent, if he had been purely about physical intimidation, then the legends would not have spoken about him with such admiration. They might have spoken about him with fear or dislike, but instead they spoke about him with respect. They spoke about him with genuine admiration. They recognized that his violence was actually excellence. His domination was achieved through legitimate football skill combined with physical dominance. He was not breaking rules. He was playing within the rules and excelling. The story of Ray Kennedy shows us that football is a physical game. It always has been, especially in the era when Kennedy played. Physical strength is part of football. Using your body correctly is part of football. Standing your ground is part of football. Fighting for the ball is part of football. Ray Kennedy did all these things better than almost anyone else, and that is why legends speak about him with such admiration and respect. When Shankly said Ray Kennedy was big, brave and strong, he was describing a champion. When Paisley called him a midfield powerhouse, he was describing a great player. When McClintock called him a beast, he was describing a physical force of nature. When Toshak said he was unshakable, he was describing someone who could not be stopped. When Souness recognized his toughness, he was identifying a kindred spirit. All these descriptions point to the same reality. Ray Kennedy was an exceptional player. His violence was his excellence. The word violence, when used to describe Ray Kennedy by these legends, is actually a word of praise. It is not a negative thing. It is not saying Ray Kennedy was bad. It is saying Ray Kennedy was dominant. It is saying Ray Kennedy was powerful. It is saying Ray Kennedy was unstoppable. It is saying Ray Kennedy was exactly what you want in a footballer. You want players who are tough. You want players who fight hard. You want players who refuse to be intimidated. You want players who use every tool at their disposal to help their team win. Ray Kennedy had all these qualities in abundance. Looking back at Ray Kennedy's career, what stands out is not that he was violent in a negative sense. What stands out is that he was excellent. He was excellent at using his physical gifts. He was excellent at timing his challenges. He was excellent at protecting the ball. He was excellent at staying on his feet under pressure. He was excellent at reading the game. He was excellent at helping his teammates. All of this excellence combined to make him one of the great players of his era. The fact that Bill Shankly, one of the greatest managers of all time, made Ray Kennedy one of his final signings tells us something important. Shankly had managed for decades. He had seen countless players. He knew football inside and out. His final signing was Ray Kennedy. This was not a random choice. This was deliberate. Shankly wanted one more player who could help Liverpool win. That player was Ray Kennedy. Shankly saw something special that others were starting to see. Shankly wanted to bring that to Liverpool. Bob Paisley understood what Ray Kennedy offered. Paisley took Ray out of the attack and put him in midfield. This was a risk. Ray might not have adapted. Ray might have struggled in his new role. But Paisley believed in Ray. Paisley understood that Ray's strength and skill could be even more valuable in midfield. Paisley was right. Ray Kennedy became a midfield powerhouse. He became one of Liverpool's greatest players. Paisley's decision to move him proved to be genius. It was one of the best tactical moves Paisley ever made. In conclusion, when football legends explain how violent Ray Kennedy was, they are telling us something important. They are telling us about a player who was dominant. They are telling us about a player who was powerful. They are telling us about a player who was difficult to oppose. They are telling us about a player who used his physical gifts within the rules to help his teams win. They are telling us about a player who earned the respect of the toughest men in football. They are telling us about a legend. If legends like Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley, Graham Souness, Charlie George, Frank McClintock and John Toshak all feared and admired Ray Kennedy, then maybe violent is the highest praise of all. Maybe it means excellence. Maybe it means dominance. Maybe it means being the best at what you do. Ray Kennedy was all of these things. He was a force of nature on the pitch. He was a giant among players. He was a legend. His violence was his brilliance. His strength was his gift to the game of football. And that is why he is remembered so fondly by those who knew him best.